So let's have a talk about the RACES technique. It's going to be really helpful when you've got this research in your place in play, and you're like, how do I turn this into paragraphs? So I put this together. It's an old tech, not an old, it's kind of old technique. I've seen it been around for 20 years. And the reason it's stayed around is a lot of writers, a lot of high school and college writers find this a good strategy for taking research and turning it into actual written paragraphs when you have to write a longer research paper. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to pull up the sample. The sample here is on how to use the RACES technique. So what happens is you take your specific inquiry question and you restate it as a statement. Then you answer it in your own words. Then you cite the evidence from your research. You explain that citation and how it supports your answer. Connect the dots. Remember, we talked about connect the dots, right? And then you kind of sum it up as you would a normal paragraph. And I've done this twice. So let's show you what I did. I went to the Connecticut State Library, and I used, just so you know what I'm using, I went and used our sample inquiry questions. If you remember, I gave you that sample set of inquiry questions right here, right? And I talked about how does the incarceration of parents affect students academically. I did a little homework. I'm not going to make you do it all right here, but I'm talking about understanding the needs of children with incarcerated parents, what educators should know. So this is obviously going to talk about that. And then I read the article. The entire article lives right here. Was a terrific article. If you're looking at this subject, it's a very good article on this subject, and it actually has a couple of side articles. So this is a real treasure trove. But I used this particular article to write pretty much an entire page of my paper using the RACES technique. So I tried to demonstrate this technique for you, and that's why I did it. So what I did was I took my question, how does the incarceration of parents affect the students academically? I quite literally copied it here, and I pasted it right here. And then I started writing one paragraph. I said, parental incarceration can have lasting consequences for our children's health and well-being, says Kristen Tunney, associate professor. Now, wait a second. I restated the question as a statement. Yes, I can. But Mr. Tush, you used an actual quote in there. Yes, I did. You can, you don't have to. I didn't use it in my second paragraph. I did use it in the first. Why? Because by framing it that way, I'm immediately bringing Kristen Tunney into it. And when I talked about this Kristen Tunney, I didn't say according to the text. I said Kristen Tunney, associate professor of sociology. I actually restated the question in a fancy way. This is a simpler way to do it. Then I answered it. When a child's biological parent is removed from the home for any length of time, it is a traumatic event that will affect the child for years. So obviously I've answered this. How does it will affect the child for years? Tunney goes on, now I'm citing my evidence, goes on to name several things that may affect the child, such as witnessing a parental arrest, uncertainty about how long the parent will be away, financial stigma of having a parent in prison. Where did I get all this? I got all this in, here it is. I got all this in these paragraphs right in here, all right? So I got all of that mess in there, right? So then I put it in my own words. I said it follows that a child who's experiencing this level of trauma and disruption at home will experience a whole host of challenges at school. So I put it in my own words. And I actually summed it up by saying when a child doesn't know what is about to happen to a parent, it'll be very difficult for that child to succeed in school. So I've kind of brought it up, lasting consequences, difficult for the child to succeed. That's the first paragraph. I then brought in a second paragraph using the same source. This source actually got me to, I could probably write 5 paragraphs on this thing. All right, it was a really good source. Students spend most of their week in school, so the loss of parents is very likely to have a major impact on their academic performance. That's my word, okay? Yes, it's logic I got in the article. I'm not presenting this as if I didn't do the research. This is absolutely something I learned. The student is likely to experience a wide range of emotional challenges. The students need to be aware that a student's personal trauma could be the cause of other issues. Obviously, it's the stuff I've learned from my research. Where did I get it from? Right here. Tunney, who I already talked about, identifies these problems as internalizing problems, blah, 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 all the things that you're going to see. That's a direct quote. I have a direct quote from the article again. All of these behaviors are likely to result in, and then I just followed my reasoning. They're likely to result in disruption to a child's learning and possibly to discipline that removes the child from class. Schools need to have supports in place to help students identify and cope with these life-altering issues that are well beyond their ability to control. So I kind of answered it. Students spend most of their week, so the loss of parents too is likely. School needs to be aware. This is the answer. My answer to this question is school needs to be aware that the student's personal trauma could cause a host of other issues. Schools need to have supports in place. That's my answer to my question. So there's two answers to this question. If you have a good specific inquiry question, you should have 3 or 4 answers to it. You're not going to answer each question in one paragraph. You're going to spend a couple, 3 paragraphs answering it. First of all, you have to be aware that it has lasting consequences and it's going to disrupt school with these kinds of issues. All right, that's the 2 of the answers I gave it. What did I do here? I simply took this good writing, and I turned them into paragraphs. I copied and pasted them in order. And then I put in a footnote right in here. I wrote my footnote right in there. I actually went to insert, and I went to insert. Where is my? I can't insert a footnote right here, but I went, see it right here, insert, footnote. Once I inserted the footnote, it actually gave me the footnote. I'm putting in a second one right here, and I put it in there. Now, where did I get that citation right here? This really cool citation. I went to, I'll show you, let me refresh this page so you can see it, but I was in this page, right? And I clicked cite. I'll undo it. I'll click cite again. When I click cite, it calls up this really cool thing called citation format. You're going to use MLA right here. I'm obviously not going to copy the works cited words, but I'm going to copy this entire citation right here. And it's totally legitimate to copy that citation and then go ahead and put it right down here. So that way I'm putting in the very exact correct citation right here. Tunney gets an in-text citation here telling you who she is, so you know it's legitimate. I don't know who Tunney is, but now I'm telling you, she's a professor in this. She's an expert in what I'm talking about. So that's why I told you she was an associate professor of sociology. And I dropped it in here. Later on, I told you that this quote's from Tunney, so I don't have to put in a second footnote because I'm telling you it's more Tunney. It's more of this mess right here. So I don't have to have I have to put in 5 footnotes for the exact same thing when in fact I've already got Tunney in there once. I gave you a nice solid, this is Tunney, the expert on this topic, and I quoted her a couple, 3 times. And each time I'm quoting from that article. I don't have to change my footnote unless I change where I'm quoting from. If she wrote a different article, then I got to quote her somewhere else. I could put in a new footnote. If I use a different researcher, I got to change my footnote. That's a separate conversation. But all I did was use this technique right here where I said, use this graphic organizer. Now, where do you have it? Go right into, when you look at the races, graphic organizer, right? This one is the blank. And I gave you the blank version. It says blank, right? You open up the blank version, and here it is. Use this. Well, Mr. Tush, you only have one of them. I need 5. Absolutely. Go right to here, File, make a copy. Use it as many times as you want. You can have 20 of these. The other thing you can do is you can add columns to this, right? You click on this, then you right click and you say insert column right. It'll actually add another column to you, and it can play with your little width here if you want to play with that. I'm going to undo that mess because it was a little sloppy, but use this graphic organizer over and over again to get you through writing your paragraphs for your essay. We'll dive in deeper on how to do the MLA formatting later on, but that's the quick and easy way to start getting your writing flowing. All right, I hope that helps. Thanks so much for watching.